What's up, gamers? I'm the Lights, and the new dungeon just dropped in Destiny 2. It's called Ghosts of the Deep, and it's pretty stinking rad. I've done a few runs so far, and I think it'll settle into my top 3 favorite dungeons quite easily and comfortably, and that's a conservative estimate, to be honest. The loot's also really solid, the armor looks incredible, so let's get in there and figure out how to beat it. So, you queue into the dungeon from the helm, by the way. Couldn't find that one at first. And you do this after picking up a quest from Hawthorne over at the tower. It'll greet you with a cutscene and drop you down into like a little biodome thing on Titan. As soon as you load in, you can pull out your Sparrow and basically just Sparrow forward to get right into the first encounter. Once you get to this point here, you can grab a rally and then start the encounter by waking up the knights by the door. As soon as the encounter starts, some ads are going to spawn, most of which you can just ignore or mow down or whatever. But you'll want to pay specifically attention to the ogre that spawns, which will spawn on one of the 3 main paths out from where you rallied from, and it is labeled a Soulfire Binder, the ogre is, that is. Once the Soulfire Binder ogre is dead, a little trail of hive goop will spawn on the ground beneath them. Look closely for this, as it can be easy to miss in the green environment. This trail will lead you in a direction. What we're trying to find here, and what the trail is trying to help us find, is a large hive symbol floating in the air. The trails of goop, though, usually point in the right general direction to at least get line of sight of the symbol, but aren't the most straightforward to follow, so use the goop, but also keep your head on a swivel and look out for the symbol. Once you see the symbol, make a mental note of what it is. Run over to it, and when you get close enough, several hive ads will start spawning in, including some more Soulfire Binders. This time, though, the Soulfire Binders will be wizards. Once all of the Soulfire Binders are dead, another trail of goop will appear, which will lead you to another one of the same symbol, which you will also run over to. And then another set of Soulfire Binder wizards will spawn, and some more ads. Once all of those Soulfire Binders are dealt with, you'll get a final goop trail, which will lead you to, again, the same symbol. But this time, when you make your way over, you'll need to fight a Lucent Hive, and when you finish its ghost off, you'll get the Vestige of Light buff for a little over a minute and 20 seconds. If this timer runs out, you will die. So as soon as you get the Vestige of Light buff, you're going to want to hit a Yui and Sparrow on back to where you hit the rally from in the middle area. And once you get there, you'll be greeted by some ads and a yellow bar Veil Weaver wizard. When you kill this wizard, you'll be able to activate Deep Sight here, which will reveal the symbols on the plates held by each of the statues. Just deposit your Vestige of Light buff into the statue with the symbol that matches the symbol you've been chasing the whole time. That's one phase. After the Deep Sight timer runs out from revealing the symbols, you'll get another Soulfire Binder Ogre to spawn in for you, to repeat the process another 3 times for a total of 4 symbols dunked. Something to note here is that from at least what I've observed in my runs, the symbols seem to only appear in a handful of set positions, and the trails seem to always end in one of only a few different areas of the map, particularly the 3 kind of outer corners. Pay attention to these spawns to speed up subsequent runs in the future if you like, but I don't have a map for them at this time. Also, there's a way to spawn a tank in by pressing some terminals in this encounter. The tank doesn't have a gun, but still pretty fun, pretty cool little thing. For loadouts to use in this encounter, I've noticed more of an emphasis on quality than quantity compared to normal with the ads in this dungeon. That is to say, there are comparatively fewer ads than other dungeons, but orange and yellow bar ads show up much more frequently, so they have a lot more HP. Using Eager Edge to get around in this encounter, since it's quite large, is really a no-brainer and is quite fun. It's what I've been using usually. But using something like a machine gun, rocket launcher, or grenade launcher to kill the Soulfire Binders quickly and safely is probably a better play. I also really liked things like fusion rifles and shotguns for killing the beefier ads, but overall, loadouts, subclasses, they're all really quite flexible here, so you can run what you're comfortable with. Once you're all done, make your way into the building through the door that'll open up in front of you. What follows is one of the longest encounter transitions I've seen in a dungeon. There's some really cool environments, some underwater sections, a secret chest. Just follow the path on screen, and if you need to slow down the video, go ahead and do so if you need some help. Something I'll add here is the bubbles in the water sections do respawn fairly quickly, but actually are shared in this dungeon, unlike in like the seasonal activity and stuff. So you can definitely kill your teammates by taking all of the bubbles on your way down and leaving them without any. You can, however, share bubbles by walking into them at roughly the same time. The timing's pretty forgiving for it. Another little something I noticed is that you actually seem to conserve quite a lot of momentum going through water transitions. So if while you're above water, you hit something like Phoenix Dive or an Eager Edge Sword Swipe, Shadow Dive, whatever, to kind of get some momentum going when you fall into the water, you're going to be moving through the water much quicker when you initially get in. A little something to make the water sections a little less terrible. Eventually, you'll be underwater and you're going to start getting radar pings, only to find that a Lucent Hive Knight is down in the water with you. Oh,
no, the Knight's chasing you
with this, man!
It's so bad.
Don't panic though, just get to the back of the room and you'll take a little lift up so that you can hit a rally for the dungeon's first boss encounter, where we're going to be taking care of that Lucent Hive Knight. First order of business in the encounter is to take care of the 3 blistered knights that spawn in. Doing so will spawn a yellow bar ogre labeled Keeper of the Deep. Killing that ogre will spawn a deep sight node by where you place the rally. After one person activates the deep sight, everyone will be able to see 3 hive symbols populate on 3 of these 8 large plates hanging from the walls of the arena. You're going to need to find these symbols underwater next, so make a mental note of them and then use one of the 4 entrances down into the water below, where you will simply walk up to any of the corresponding symbols when you find it and then just interact with them all. These symbols do have set locations that can be seen on this map here. If I find any other graphics, just like with the first encounter, I'll add it to the pinned comment and you can take a look at those. While you're underwater, the boss can and will chase you around down there, and him hitting you knocks a bit of your pressure meter off. It doesn't actually do damage to you in the traditional sense, so it's not necessarily better or worse, just be careful. Not that you can really do much about it. Every symbol you activate will spawn a light bearer wizard back on the surface. Killing and then finishing the ghost of any of these wizards will give you the vestige of light buff. You will need to interact with all 3 symbols and spawn all 3 wizards, but you can actually get stacks of vestiges of light. If you want to dunk all 3 of them at once, you can kill all 3 wizards, pick up all 3 vestiges of light, and then dunk them all afterwards. Just be aware of your timer though, because just like the last encounter, the timer running out is lethal. So you're going to take your Vestige of Light buff and deposit it into the 3 statues that are up the stairs in this room. Dunking all 3 will spawn a yellow bar Hive Knight, a Well Keeper Knight, back at where you hit the rally. Killing the Well Keeper Knight will drop a green pool on the ground, granting you the Piercing Light buff, which will enable you to damage the Knight's shield and then begin the actual damage phase. The damage phase is of pretty average length here, and once the boss's shield returns, you'll rinse and repeat from the top until he dies. And when he does die, Don't forget to finish his ghost off. I don't know what happens if you don't switch the ghost, but I really don't want to find out, and I don't think you want to find out either, so let's just leave it at that. Just like with any other encounter for boss damage, Warlocks will do very well on Well of Radiance. Titan will be best off on Void for Bubble, or Solar for Sunspot Sustain. Hunters I actually think will be the best on Arc in this encounter, but Solar and Void will also be just fine, though they have some strengths and weaknesses. For boss damage, odds are your inclination will be to want to just do all of your boss damage from the pool that was spawned by the Wellkeeper Knight. This is fine, and stuff like the Lament, Legend of Acreus, melee damage builds with Tractor Cannon, shotguns of any kind, anything like that will work very well for damage in such a situation. If your team wants to do something else though, this boss isn't usually very aggressive, so it generally is alright to move elsewhere after you've removed the shield, if you want to go that route. The shield from the boss does take quite a bit of damage to remove, so don't just pepper it with a primary, this thing needs real damage. Or, and this is the best piece of advice I can give for the entire dungeon to be honest, use Arbalest. Arbalest removes the shield in a single shot, which I highly recommend you take advantage of, even if you only use Arbalest to shoot that one shot and then swap to something else. Once the boss is dead, a new exit is going to open up on the side of the underwater area, which is where you're going to go to progress. We have another encounter transition here with another secret chest atop this structure in this big open room. Drop down, and we're greeted by the freaking dead body of Oryx that is attempting to be resurrected with a ghost. And there's also the final boss there. This is one of the gnarlier dungeon encounters in the game mechanically. There's quite a bit going on, most of which is to do with the yellow bar sword knight that roams around and is constantly respawning, which is Vorlog. Killing Vorlog will spawn a deep sight node in either the middle of the arena or a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. Activating the deep sight node will reveal a green triangle in the air, which will run from above Oryx's heart, which is kind of in the middle, around his ribcage, and then to 2 of the 5 other potential points, which are just Oryx's other body parts, his left and right legs, his left and right arms, and his head. These areas are additionally indicated by green circles that appear on the ground when you stand in them. Once you've identified the 3 spots the triangle connects to, Volrog should have probably respawned by this point and is roaming around somewhere. Stand within the circle below any of the triangle's 3 points and kill Vorlog again. Make sure you're standing in the circle when you get the final blow though. Vorlog always spawns a deep sight node when he dies, so it can be good to reactivate it so you can always see the triangle. After you've killed Vorlog from within 1 point, pick either of the 2 remaining points and kill him from within that circle. Once you've killed him that time, an Oryx symbol will appear somewhere above the plate you were just at. Additionally, a circle will appear above the plate you killed him from when you killed him the first time. Line up the Oryx symbol inside the circle by standing in a specific spot, and that will reveal one of the, hive symbols that you're used to, that you've seen throughout the dungeon, above one corner of the triangle. We need 3 symbols though, 1 for each corner of the triangle. From there, you can just do the last 2 in any order by killing Vorlog from within the circle beneath either of the other corners of the triangle. This is the weirdest part to understand. You're basically just killing Vorlog from each corner of the triangle once, plus 1 additional time to start the whole thing. At any rate, once you've got all 3 symbols up, it's time to address the numerous water walls around the edges of the arena. Walking through these will lead you to one of 3 additional rooms around the arena. One with a Lightbearer Acolyte, one with a Lightbearer Wizard, and another with a Lightbearer Knight. Killing any of these Lucent Hive and finishing their ghost will give you the Vestige of Light buff, which should be familiar to you by this point. If the timer runs out, you die, and you're going to have to go dunk it somewhere. This time though, each buff is specific. It doesn't give you Vestige of Light. It gives you Vestige of a Knight, Vestige of an Acolyte, or Vestige of a Wizard, depending on, of course, which one you killed. This is because each of the rooms will have a unique symbol in it as well that matches one of the symbols you revealed with the initial mechanic, the whole killing Vorlog thing. Once you have finished off the Lucent Hive, make sure that you have internalized what symbol corresponds to that room before you kill it, because once you kill it, the symbol will disappear. Come back to the middle, make sure that Deep Sight is on. You can kill Vorlog again if you need to activate Deep Sight another time. And then go dunk the vestige into the corner of the triangle with the corresponding symbol. Once you have dunked all three, green goop pools will appear at each of the corners of the triangle, allowing you to break the boss's shield and do damage. So this means that you can deal damage from any of the plates that pop up. Doesn't really matter, just pick whichever one you like. And then also keep in mind that just like with the last encounter, once the shield is broken, you can run around and do damage from wherever you want. There's just not much of a reason to move in this encounter like there is in the last one. Additionally, for this encounter, you can do the mechanics slightly out of order. You do need to have had the symbol spawned in the middle above the triangle in order to dunk the corresponding buff, but you don't need all three symbols up to dunk any one buff. Just something to keep in mind if you kind of want to delegate and do kind of multiple things at once. My recommendation is still to just spawn all three symbols and then go get all three symbols. You're going to rinse and repeat this until the boss is dead or Lucent Moths send you malding back to orbit. Then when you're done, of course, make sure you crush the ghost. Nobody wants to find out what happens if you do not crush the ghost. So, obviously, there's quite a lot to this encounter, and there's quite a bit that's asked of you compared to a lot of other dungeons. Survivability is very important, the most important thing, since the ads can be quite spread out and therefore a little more difficult to deal with efficiently. The boss also hurts, as do the numerous Lucent Moths all over the place, and you'll have most of your time occupied by running around dealing with the mechanics anyways. Solar and Void Warlocks both have adequate survivability on the right builds. Solar and Void Titans should do the trick just fine. And for Hunters, Void with Invis is going to be my recommendation. That's probably the play, but you can make a lot of things work on all three classes as long as you just can survive. You're going to want a weapon that can kill Vorlog efficiently, since he's decently chunky and you're going to need to kill him a lot. Snipers and special ammo linear fusion rifles were my favorite for this, but you can even use heavy ammo if you think you won't use all of it for damage or you have some extra bricks laying around or whatever. For damage, the boss is a bit of a pain in the ass to hit sometimes. She teleports around every so often and has some pretty exaggerated animations, so damage is going to take some getting used to. But I've had the most success so far with linear fusion rifles like Cataclysmic. I expect swaps with a rocket launcher and Izanagi's Burden will do good damage, but I'm not really a fan of it because you're likely to miss some rockets due to the boss just being cringe, and I will not be held accountable for any malding done over missed rockets. The biggest tip I can give is that, again, Arbalest one-shots the shield from full. And it's great for killing Vorlog, so I can't recommend Arbalest enough for this encounter. Definitely should run that one. The damage phase is pretty typical length again, similar to the previous one. Just prioritize hitting your shots, staying alive, and then dealing with Vorlog and the Lucent Hive efficiently. And once you're done with that, you can grab your loot, and you've done it. You have cleared Ghosts of the Deep, new dungeon in Destiny 2. Super hype. Love this one. If you guys enjoyed the guide, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you in the next one. Deuces.